Let's talk about making Love Yourself Her focused playlist while supporting BTS and Chapter 2 releases. To start with, we always focus on BTS. We just add to their focus. For her, I'm creating two playlists, a chart focused playlist and an active listening playlist, but both are still focused on her and BTS. So, what's the difference between chart focused and active listening? For me, the difference is I listen to the active listening playlist throughout the day as I work, as I clean, as I plan, etc. Whatever I'm doing. If I'm going to the store, I'm listening to my active listening playlist on my car radio. The chart focused playlist is a stream only playlist that I usually play on my second devices or accounts, and I play them all day. The key is that I add to my current streaming, not stopping or taking anything away. So let's go through a walkthrough of how I adjust my playlist when we get a special release or a fandom focus. Okay, so I am in one of my Spotify accounts, freshly cleaned up and organized for 2023. I am still very happy about that. Everything is clearly labeled over here. It just makes my organization side thrilled. When we get a new release and I start making my new playlist, I always start with a template. I have templates that I keep on my Spotify accounts to quickly make different types of playlists. You see, I have some at the bottom. This is a lifesaver and very handy. They are clearly labeled so that I know not to change them, or that when I'm changing them for a purpose. It also makes staying focused super easy and stress-free because my templates are already focused, as you can see. I'm actually on one of the templates, although it doesn't say template because I do listen to this one sometimes, and it is already focused on chapter 2, which is what that template is about. My active listening template is heavily focused on BTS. So yeah, so I keep them focused so that I can easily update them when needed. So let's make a chart focused playlist. In order to do that, I first duplicate my focused template, which this template, as you see, is 2023 fandom focus. And it's labeled fandom focus so that when we have fandom projects or special releases that we are promoting, such as her, then I know that this is the template that I use. It's pretty short because I'm going to add to this template, but if you notice, it is heavily focused on proof and chapter 2 releases. So I don't have to worry about that when I get ready to make this playlist. So this is the template that I'm going to start from. And first, I duplicate my focus playlist and then rename it. In order to do that, I select the first song, hold shift, and select the last song so that all the songs are highlighted. I right click and I add to playlist, and I select create playlist because I want to make a new playlist. And you will see that it shows up at the top, and it's just going to have the playlist title of the first song. It's going to be the same. So I need to go in and change it. So this is going to be my Her Focus playlist. One thing I want to point out here is that I actually do not select create a similar playlist. If you right click on your playlist on the left and select create a similar playlist, it's not going to do a one-to-one copy. It's actually going to add songs that I may not want on my playlist. So I don't do that. I always copy and paste manually. All right, I have created my new playlist and I have renamed it. So the next step is to go into my library and I pull up my artist profile for BTS. I pull up all of their albums and I go to the album that I am interested in for this playlist. In this case, it is Love Yourself Her. And I'm going to add all of those songs onto the new playlist I just created. Right click, and this time instead of creating new, I'm going to select the playlist I just created, Her Focus, and they're all going to appear at the bottom. So what I want to do now is go through and I am just going to spread these out randomly. It doesn't matter if they are next to each other because they're not the same song. But I do like to spread out my album songs because there are times when I don't play the entire playlist for whatever reason. I may stop it because I'm in a meeting or I need that device or someone calls me and I'm streaming it on my phone. Whatever the case may be, there are times when that playlist will stop. I mean, I know I'll restart it, but I like to have it diversified on my focus playlist. Okay, this is a her focus playlist at this point. What I am going to do is duplicate the songs that are on here so that I can extend the length of this playlist. I like my focus playlist to be somewhere between 3 and 4 hours long. And I'm going to do that randomly. So I arrange them throughout the playlist to make sure there's no looping. If I want to add more streams for the title track or tracks, then I add that repeatedly every 2 to 4 tracks. In this case, I am going to do that for DNA. So I'm just going to highlight DNA and add it back to this playlist a couple of times. Not a ton because we're not trying to rechart DNA or anything, but I do want to get a couple of extra streams for DNA. Now I have a playlist that is built out, but it is still kind of short. So I am going to just kind of randomly pick a spot, probably not DNA because I know I have it duplicated, so I don't want to accidentally loop it. I'm starting with song 5 and I'm going to highlight all the way down to song 20 and right click, and I'm going to add all of these to the same playlist. And they just add at the bottom. So it extends my playlist. Now I'm at about 2 hours and 42 minutes. So I only have to do this one more time. So I'm going to start with Boy With Love this time. And I'm going to go all the way to Yet to Come. I'm just going to scan it to make sure nothing is accidentally looping. It shouldn't because I was very random in how I did that. Great, so I'm a little bit over 4 hours. That's great for me for a focus playlist. One thing I want to say about doing this randomly is that doing that helps you to avoid looping, and it also helps you to avoid any type of patterns from repeating the songs on your playlist. Because if you just kind of pick a starting point at random and an ending point at random each time you copy, it helps you avoid that. Why do I duplicate instead of adding them separately? It's easier. That's it. And I want to keep adding Love Yourself Her songs, not random songs, because Love Yourself Her is the focus. Since I already have them on the playlist, then it's just easier to repeat them to this playlist. So that's how that works. Okay, so let's build the active listening playlist following the same process. My active listening template is actually a favorites template, which means it contains my current favorite songs and it's more diverse, but it still focuses heavily on BTS. I follow the same playlist or the same process to create a new active listening template that's focused on her, and I just duplicate it by doing the same thing I did before, creating a new playlist. This time I'm going to, instead of just saying her focus playlist, I am going to call it her active listening. Sometimes I'll label these as workday listening because I usually use my active listening playlist heavily during my workday, but workday listening, active listening, it's all the same for me. So I've created my her active listening, and then I am going to go ahead and add her just like I did before. While I'm doing that, let me just talk a little bit about how I stream these playlists. I use Spotify Duo. That's my preferred account setup. really for new releases and long term, but definitely for new releases. That's what I prefer to stream. I use both Spotify accounts all day. Focus playlist on one account, active listening, and focus playlist all day on another. I do not restrict myself with limits of any type. I maximize all streams on all accounts to impact as much as I can, not just US charts, but global and South Korean recognition as well. It's all important to me. Not to mention that BTS gets paid for every single stream, and that's important, especially with what we know about Spotify revenue and so many artists really not making much revenue from Spotify. So that's important to me, which is why I maximize all of my accounts all throughout the day. For new release, I do stream on Apple Music. I prefer Spotify, so I only use focused playlists on Apple Music. So just like before, these songs will show up at the bottom, and I'm going to spread them out. And this is more important, the way I spread these out during the active listening playlist, because I actively listen to it. So I am going to put some thought into this. While I do that, I am going to fast forward the video so that you don't have to sit here while I go through contemplating where should I put intro serendipity. Okay, so this playlist is now complete. This is an example of how I manage my streaming based on my streaming profile. Keep in mind, streaming is personal to each of us, so you do not have to do things exactly like I do them. As long as you are not looping and you are actually streaming, it will be okay. The most important thing is being active in your support. Hopefully, seeing my process will help some of you create your own process. Happy streaming.